Welcome to the Black Sparrow Media Internet Broadcast Network.
You are listening to Linux in the Ham Shack. LHS is a podcast about Linux, open source, and amateur radio, for everyone. Now here are your hosts, Cheryl, W5MOO, Russ, K5TUX, and Bill, NE4RD.
Well, hello everybody, and welcome. You have tuned in to episode number 576 of Linux in the Ham Shack, the most terrific amateur radio podcast on the internet. And you have joined us for our deep dive episode, so thanks for joining us for that. Should be interesting. Our topic just sort of jumped out at us this time around, and we have a little bit of experience, and Bill will actually get to do most of the talking tonight. But before he starts talking, well, I guess you're going to start talking anyway, but let's go ahead and introduce ourselves. For the On Assignment Cheryl, W5MOO, I'm Russ, K5TUX.
And I'm Bill, NE4RD.
All right, so we're coming out of the winter deep freeze, and...
Well, some of you are.
Well, yeah. I guess you've got a little bit of it left.
Yeah, I do have a little snow, actually falling as the podcast is recording, because I can see it right out of my garage.
Well, that's a nice thing. It's nice to see the snow fall, as long as it goes away quickly.
Yeah, I think it will. We're going to be cold, I guess, for the next week or so, but not like terrible cold. I think it's definitely be melted cold.
Yeah, it's going to be a little cool here this week as well, too. And then next week, of course, you'll be able to take the bike to work. So,
yeah, time to put that charging harness on there and get the battery pepped back up for normal use. I missed the 2 riding days that were perfect this past week that were in the 70s, and it was all because I didn't take the time to set the charging cable in place and zap the battery back up to life so it can spin everything up. It turns everything on, but it's just not enough to start the engine right now.
Well, soon enough. One of these days I'll buy the part I need for mine, and we'll see what happens after that. So, all right. Well, with that, we should probably get into our topic for the evening. And we're going to be talking tonight about Aurora Linux, which is a spin of Fedora 41. I'm going to assume this word is Kinuite, but it could be something else.
Yeah, make up anything, Kinoite or...
I don't know. It looks Japanese to me, Kinuite, but... I have no idea. But anyway, it's a word, and it's a thing, and it's what Aurora is based on. So know that we're going to be talking about an RPM-based distribution, and also one that is immutable. This is one of these fancy schmancy immutable ones, which requires using things like Flatpaks and brew and snaps and all that other stuff, although not much in the way of snaps. Yeah. But Docker...
on the AppSnay.
Right. Yeah. So all that containerization crap and sandboxing and all of that stuff in order to make this work, because the OS itself, of course, as we just said, is immutable. But Bill is the one who started on this, and I did a download of it, and I've got it running on a machine across the room here from me, and I've been playing around with it, and actually don't hate it right out of the box, so that's something. But we'll let you run down through a little bit about what Aurora is, what's special about it, and what you found.
Well, I will preface to say that I did find this topic from Reddit originally, because as always, we're trying to find a topic, and just really didn't have anything that wanted to move my brain any. And I found a topic in Reddit I think it was on the Linux one, which was entitled Best Linux Distro in 2025 for Non-Experts. And it was in one of the comments that I saw this one mentioned. And the comments were pretty interesting enough to make me say, well, I don't think I've heard of this one. And, being a Fedora spin, I'm familiar with like Nobara and a couple other ones that we've talked about. But this particular one, we haven't specifically mentioned. This is Aurora Linux. And I'm going to go through just some quick, well, probably not quick because, we're going to fill the show, right? Some copy from the website. So this is all from Aurora Linux website that tells you all about it. What they say is it's a familiar KDE desktop for people who love Fedora Knoit or Knoit, or whatever you want to call that. Aurora is a maintenance-free, reliable, and fast operating system for everyone. Stable like a Chromebook. Okay. It combines the power of Fedora and the beauty of the KDE desktop in a single, reliable, and sleek package. System updates are image-based and automatic. Applications are logically separated from the system by using Flatpaks for graphical applications and Brew for command line applications. Workloads for development are containerized. Now, I'll preface to say they have a desktop version, so like for a normal end user type experience, and then they also have a developer version, which comes with all the bells and whistles and everything else you could possibly want if you were developing and setting up a development system in place. So that'll kind of come into play as we kind of talk about some of the things that it has. So for users, these are some of the things that they say that it has. It has the, I'm not even going to pronounce it. PTYXIS, TYSIS terminal for container-focused workflows, Box Buddy for container management. It comes included with Tailscale. We talk about Tailscale all the time. It's included for VPN along with WireGuard tools. KDE Discover with FlatHub. It uses a familiar Software Center UI to install graphical software. The warehouse included the Flatpak for management. It has quality of life features. And these include Starship terminal prompt enabled by default. And this is one that caught me off guard because I wasn't real familiar with Starship, so I looked it up. And it's the minimal, blazing fast, and infinitely customizable prompt for any shell. So I think we talked about like Oh My Posh and Oh My ZSH and some other various ones that enable a lot of context to your prompt. Like you go into a directory that's in a Git control, you can see which branch you're in, where the branch was merged from, and all that interesting information that you kind of want to see when you're inside of a particular directory. Starship is one of those things. And it's the first time I actually run across that one, at least knowing it by name and seeing it mentioned by name. So you also see when you open up a prompt inside of Aurora, you see a little splash, a little splash of Starship stuff at the very top. Other quality of life features include Docker and Podman Development Edition images, contain both Docker and Podman runtimes to support your containerized needs. This is, pretty much a must for a lot of development these days, being cloud focused. Input Leap built in. And I believe that's something you had mentioned earlier that you were interested in. Solar, which is included for Logitech mouse management along with libratbagd, which I'm not sure what that is. But I have used Solar before. Solar is an excellent utility to program your little Logitech dongles that you get. And let's say you have like a dozen Logitech keyboards running around the place and a bunch of mice, and you've only found one of the receivers for them. You can program that so it can operate any of the mice and keyboards that you have out there. That's a great app. I think we've talked about it before in the past because I've used it in the past. It has Open Razor for managing your Razor devices. RClone and RStic or Restic is included. I have no idea what those are. Z-Shell and Fish are included and also optional. As well, it's built on top of the Universal Blue main image. And I believe that's the immutable package image 41. It has extra UDEV rules for game controllers and other devices included out of the box. All multimedia codecs are included, so no hitting the third-party repos for those. System is designed for automatic staging of updates. If you've never used an image-based Linux before, just use your computer normally. Don't overthink it. Just shut your computer off when you're not using it. Applications it comes with. So this will be some of the stuff that's in the fat package that you're going to get. It has Mozilla Firefox, Mozilla Thunderbird, Deja Dup, I don't know what that is. Font Downloader, Flat Seal, and the Haruna Media Player. Didn't get a chance to use that. And it has all the core KDE applications installed, like KCal Console, Ocular, Dolphin File Manager, KWeather, Firelight, and KDE Partition Manager. So how is this different from the normal Fedora Kinoite or Kinoite, whatever? Other than visual differences in codecs, there are some other key differences between Bluefin and Fedora Kinoite from a usage perspective. Aurora takes a greenfield approach to Linux applications by defaulting to FlatHub and Brew by default. Being a mutable system base, that makes sense because as soon as you start introducing RPMs, you have to actually do the RPM OS tree stuff, and that can get a little bit messy downstream. I don't really recommend it. If you want to keep your system clean, it's actually easier and much better to use FlatHub and Brew. And people have been using Macs for years. Know that Brew is a pretty solid product, and a lot of people probably don't even know you can use Brew on Linux, but it works quite well in Linux. Aurora doesn't recommend using ToolBX, whatever that is. It instead focuses on dev containers for declarative containerized development. You can use Podman or Docker to run your bootstrap your containers. Aurora tries to remove the need for the user to use RPM OS tree or boot C directly. Again, you don't want to modify that image, both for security reasons and to maintain your upgrade paths pretty cleanly. Aurora focuses on automation of OS services and upgrades instead of user interactions. Upgrades are automatic and silent, so you never have to think about it again. So no more DNF to update, or if you were in a Ubuntu land, apt upgrade. So this is very, very easy to maintain and keep secure, and especially with all the upgrades that Fedora normally takes, which is quite a few. I just did an update today, and I think I did one yesterday, and I think like 94 packages updated today. So it does update quite often. So to see that a lot of that stuff will all be silent and just sort of happening in the background and maintaining your OS tree so all the OS is updated and secure, I think that's a pretty good thing. Now in the show notes, we have also linked download info and stuff like that, so you'll find those in the show notes. And also I linked Starship as a separate item. So let's talk a little bit about the install. It's an ISO image. And maybe, Russ, you can talk a little bit about your install and how you installed it, so I can puff on my cigar for a minute.
Yeah, no problem. I do all of my installs the way I have been for the past year or so, and that's using Pixie booting with iVentoi, because that's the greatest way to do it. So rather than have a bunch of ISOs lying around, I just download them onto my Pixie boot server, have iVentoi running, and then I boot my clients into Pixie boot, have them start up via network, and then do the installation of the image from there. It worked really well with Aurora. Sometimes it's a little glitchy. I've had a couple of distributions that didn't really want to install properly that way. One thing about Aurora is there is no live ISO. At least the dev version that we downloaded does not have a live version. You can't just run it. You must install. There's no run option. So if you're going to be doing this on bare metal, be aware of that. If you're in a virtualized environment, obviously not that big a deal. I'm kind of getting used to the way the more modern Fedoras are set up as far as defining partitions and stuff. Basically what I did was I let Aurora create a ButterFS container and then automatically flesh it out with the drives and links to BootEFI and stuff that it wanted. And that went pretty smoothly. It's a little bit more cumbersome to me than the way Debian does installations. But once you kind of have a feel for it, it's pretty quick and easy. Luckily, I built this machine with some empty space on it, because if I had to do some reformatting or repartitioning, it probably would have been less desirable, let's say. But once I configured the partitions, or sort of let it configure the partitions and set up the root and non-root user, the rest of the installation was hands-off. When it rebooted, it popped up into Aurora, and it looked a lot like any other system you've ever seen running KDE on top of Fedora. It does have some UI customizations. The dock is actually very nice right out of the box in Aurora. Links to the application managements in the lower left, like it always is. I immediately set my stuff to auto hide and tweak the power settings and the lock screen so that it basically runs forever. And then after that, I just went into the software management and started downloading stuff, and it was pretty seamless. Now, Bill mentioned Input Leap earlier. That is a fork and recent development cycle for what used to be Barrier, which is the virtual KVM software. And since Aurora had it natively, I haven't been using Barrier for a while because of its little problem with the fact that it doesn't support Wayland. So since it was in Aurora, I just set it up, basically clicked the audio config, and then downloaded and installed Input Leap on my Windows machine that I usually use as the server. So after doing that and enabling SSL, it came up and actually worked 100%. And by default, Aurora uses Wayland. So Input Leap, good on you for supporting Wayland. I don't even know if it supports Xorg at this point. Maybe they've flip-flopped on that, but it doesn't really matter. Because it works with the machine I needed to work with. And it worked flawlessly, actually. So that's excellent. The terminal is excellent. It's got all of those add-ons and everything. And, of course, it's linked in with Starship, so you get the custom prompting. You get the Git environment and all the dev tools. It comes with VS Code and all that good stuff. Bill will talk more about that because I don't really use those tools. But out of the box, it was pretty seamless. I installed WSJTX on it just because I can, and that worked really well. The initial login screen or the initial welcome screen allows you to enable third-party repos. So I turned those on. That was all seamless. The update process was seamless as well. Downloading, point and click downloads for software, everything worked fine. I've barely been into the command line at this point because I didn't really feel like I needed to. And the fact that the whole thing is based on a immutable system where you've got all these containers and flatpaks and brew access and stuff like that. I was trying to see how much I could do without getting into any of that, and it's really quite simple. So I've been impressed with it so far. And I also found an application I didn't know about, which has nothing to do with Aurora, but it's called Plex Amp. And it's a music front end for Plex if you're using that. And it kind of works like, Winamp used to do, but it's much more futuristic. It takes your libraries and aggregates them and then throws some AI on top of it. So it will build, playlists based on your mood and, all kinds of cool things. It has nice visualizers. And I've been sitting here in my office preparing for the show, letting it play music for me. And it's been great. So that's something I'm going to use in the future. And I didn't even know about it. The only reason I know about it is because it was a pre-installed package on Aurora. So, but yeah, I'm just going to dig around and see what I can find in there. Don't even care about the OS at this point. I just want the apps.
I don't even have that installed on mine. I got to figure out what I did. I guess I didn't do the third-party stuff on mine.
No. So, it doesn't come pre-installed. I'm sorry. That was one. Okay. I just searched for Plex in the software center, and the Plex client and Plex amp both came up, so I installed them.
Interesting. More actions. Yeah, I've never used the KD Discover before, and I kind of like it. Have you used that before?
No, I haven't, and that's how I found all that stuff. And I was digging it.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, for discoverability. I mean, I think that's like a huge thing with software, especially in open source. Well, probably anywhere. I think discoverability is always one of those things that's an afterthought on even phones and devices, even podcasts and stuff like that. Trying to find the right podcast to listen to. I think this is really nice how the application's set up, and it's much easier than the other software centers, even the one I have installed on my Fedora box here, which is the old GNOME-looking software center, which is garbage, pretty much. I try not to even go into it.
Interestingly, though, you mentioned one of the things that it comes pre-installed with, which is Tailscale, and that would normally be wonderful, except that I don't use Tailscale anymore. I've switched over to use NetBird, so so I'm going to actually have to take Tailscale off and see how that goes. So.
Oh no! You're going to have to tell us all about NetBird in a future deep dive because I'd like to hear about that.
It does some things. I mean, it's all WireGuard. It's all the same. But there's a couple of things that NetBird does better for my use case than Tailscale. which is why I switched over to it. So yeah, we'll talk about NetBird at some point in the future. But
yeah, that'd be exciting. Yeah. Yeah, I was pleasantly surprised by everything. And I did to install some of the Linux ham radio stuff. I installed mine on a boxes install, so totally virtual. And I did notice it it had some weirdness with the way power management was handling things. So I did the same thing. I manually blocked power management from shutting it down. I noticed that the virtual box wouldn't come quite back to life after the screen went blank, and it might have something to do just with the particular driver that this QEMU or whatever is running on this particular box virtual environment. But I wouldn't think that would happen on bare metal anyway. They do offer several downloads for the ISO that includes drivers for NVIDIA, of course. If you have an NVIDIA discrete graphics card, you'll want to download the NVIDIA-based image. I just downloaded the Intel/AMD one because, well, I was going to run it virtually. But yeah, I really appreciate the UI look. It's definitely very clean looking. Even like the dark theme that it comes with, the background is nice. Definitely not unpleasant. A lot of these spins from the Fedora family, tend to come with a little bit of more eye candy, I think, to make it more appealing. Like Nabara, I think, was the same way. It had that really colorful background on the desktop that was kind of hard to forget that initial experience. And I think this gives that same kind of feel, that same initial experience that's like, ooh, this is kind of neat. So it's nice to see that they're putting a lot of effort into, the actual look and feel, which I think is kind of critical for adoption. And this is, it is kind of pushed at people that are transitioning from, Windows 10, Windows 11, whatever. Obviously, with the very standard-looking taskbar, task management, start menu buttons right there where you would expect it in a Windows 10 box. I don't know. You can probably move it to the center and pretend you're a Windows 11 box, I guess, if you really wanted to. But Russ mentioned that I'd talk a little bit more about the command line stuff, and I did. I started to mess around with Brew a little bit and started getting set up to do some yarn packaging and stuff like that, and all of that. Installed everything I needed to do that right out of the box. I cloned not1mm just to bring it down and take a look at that. And I was like, I'm so used to just typing code and dot to bring up VS Code. And guess what? VS Code was installed already. So that was nice to see. I guess, my muscle memory took over, and it answered the right answer to me. It's kind of one of those things, like, let's see if it has LL as and it even has LL already aliased. So yeah, this might be the unicorn the unicorn distribution here. Yeah, wow. They must be reading my mind when it comes to these things. Yeah, so I don't know what to say besides, yeah, this is probably one of the most complete systems. And seeing that it's also immutable, which, sometimes we don't always give a positive light to, just because us old school, package-based distro users tend to like just wrecking our own systems with the various package management and issues that come along with that when you do upgrades and all of a sudden have, dependency hell that you have to deal with. Some of that is kind of removed from this. It does kind of force you into the environment of using Flatpaks, but it does use FlatHub by default. So maybe those Fedora managed Flatpaks that we had a story about not too long ago won't be an issue with this particular install. So you can install away and assure yourself that you're not going to get stuff that's not necessarily maintained from the developers or not necessarily maintained in the developer's way, because we know that Red Hat or Fedora does sort of, carve their own path a little bit with the Flatpaks and may or may not have the exact version that the author or dev team has intended to be out there. So that's good. Is it going to limit your ability to install, things like CQR log? Not like I would recommend that anymore. It's not available in the discovery process here. I don't know if CQR log is available in a Flatpak, but QLog is, and I installed that without a problem. And I think that's the last thing I used before I switched over to Wavelog. So you can definitely use a logger that we've talked about, and a logger that's more than competent to run an amateur radio system with this. FLRig, FLDigi all came in fine. Does it have JS? What's the JS call thing?
It does not have JTDX. I tried that one.
Yeah, it doesn't have JTDX. What's the other one?
JS8 call. I didn't try JS8 call.
Yes, it has JS8 call is already in there, and probably FreeDV, I bet you, is in there. Oh, no, FreeDV is not in there. So you may have to go fish on some of these things.
It might be interesting to see. That may be where this falls down, is when you have to do something that is not in the repo. that might make it a more painful process. I'm definitely going to get into that at some point because I want to find out what that's like on an immutable system.
Well, it's not impossible to do. You can still install RPMs. You can use the RPM-OS tree. So basically you create a sort of instance of the image you're running, and it applies your changes to that instance. Much like a Docker package. You change one line in your Docker config, and all of a sudden you get a new hash entry for that change that you made, and that will persist in updates. And I believe I did talk about this when we were doing the Fedora Budgie immutable system, because I installed Linux Show Player as an RPM because I couldn't find it as a Flatpak. And let me just do that. Linux Show. Oh, they have it as a Flatpak.
Do the driver subsystems handle each other fine when on these immutable systems in your experience? Because I don't really have any experience, and what I'm thinking of is things like on my Ham Shack computer, for example, I run rig control D as a process unto itself, and then it's, of course, connected to via TCP. So if I have to install something like JTDX using something that, I guess containerizes it or whatever, or sandboxes it in whatever way the OS wants on these immutable systems, do I still have regular access to TCP sockets and whatnot?
I believe so. I believe that you can adjust the behavior of those packages. If they're not meant to have network connectivity, they won't out of the box. But there are tools that you can sort of manage your FlatHub rules or Flatpak rules a little bit more granular. I've never actually had to install anything for it, and off the top of my head, I can't even remember what it's called, but I've heard it mentioned so many times. But there is something that you can do for managing any kind of oddities that you experience with your application not playing nicely with your system. Generally, I've never seen anything weird, except for the fact that the Flatpaks normally have some weird directory structures in which they store data and their config files and stuff like that. So that would be the only thing that I would point at that would be different. In general, you might not see things in your .config file. It might be buried in the actual, the local share, blah, 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 whatever for the application. Very similar to how a Mac does it, where it stores, the profile stuff and the directory stuff within the container itself. So you'd have to kind of go into the container and actually modify the stuff there. But I haven't had any problems with using Flatpaks or anything else like that with any kind of network stuff, using FLRig or rig control D. They'd be all the same. They just use regular sockets.
Yeah, I remember having an issue with that, trying to run, I think it was Prism Launcher from Flatpak, because it doesn't store the config files for their instances and stuff in the normal place.
Yeah.
So I'd be interested. I'll have to try and get Prism Launcher to install on Aurora and see what that is like. I mean, I'm assuming if it's in the Flatpak repo that it shouldn't be a problem, but
and it is.
And it is. Okay, well, that's good, because I was installing it from Flatpak on a non-immutable system. I was doing it on something else just as a test. I think it was on Manjaro or something. I don't remember, but it was not good.
Yeah, there are some systems, including Garuda, which is not really set up well for dealing with Flatpaks in general. There's some stuff underlying that it doesn't auto-config when you start running Flatpaks that you need to have configured in your profile in order to have those things run without segfaulting and doing other weird weird things. But normally a system that's designed to use it out of the box, like Fedora has always been using flat packs for a long time now, probably since like early 30s or whatever, in the version numbering, maybe even in the upper 20s. So the flat pack experience has been seamless. I've never experienced anything odd about managing the flat packs in my Fedora installations that I run.
All right. Well, that sounds good. Like I said, I'm going to definitely kick the tires some more on this thing because I like the way it works, and I might just keep it as a secondary system just to keep up with the direction of these kinds of systems and how they work with their interactions with containers and whatnot. It's probably good to at least keep up on the techniques and how they differ from a standard system.
Yeah, exactly. I think I might actually my desktop, my spare desktop over here is running Garuda, and I have it set up poorly. I actually have my home directory on a spinning disk, and it slows my profile load quite a bit because I have I don't know, about 9 terabytes sitting on that stupid drive. So I might reconfigure that system just to use the that spinning disk as a video data, because I do a lot of video editing on that. And I might try with this, because I do have I think I have a new NVMe drive sitting around here somewhere that I haven't quite used yet. That would be good as a base drive for a system. And this looks like might be something that I might try for a longer term use. Probably because I'm a Fedora fanboy now, I guess.
Well, I have to do something with the machine out in the garage because there was some mess up with Prism Launcher. I tried to launch it, and it was giving me like a OpenGL type error, and so I figured, it must be like an outdated driver or something like that. So I upgraded the system, and then it blew up, so now it won't boot. So
I have found that if you run Prism, like if you're using it in multiple places, like I know you're using it on multiple computers, if you leave it open on both computers, you'll have to like restart it on the other computer because it loses its auth with the Xbox thingy, and then it'll throw just like a random OpenGL or weird error that doesn't make any sense, like normally a graphic error or something stupid like that, but it's actually an auth error. It lost its key to actually authenticate as you in the game. So normally when I see that, I just close out Prism Launcher, reopen it, and relaunch the game, and it works fine.
Well, I think I'm well beyond that point of fixing that easily. So
you fixed it the hard way.
I did fix it the hard way. Yep.
Yeah, I noticed that behavior like about a month or two ago. It might be something new too. That is just sort of the experience as security things always change in the cloud services and whatnot. So. But yeah, that's something I have noticed, and I see it on my Mac and on my Linux box. So those are 2 places I generally am playing from Prism Launcher, the good old Minecrafts.
And speaking of cloud services, going back to the beginning of what you were talking about, rclone is a command line client for cloud file storage.
Oh, okay.
And Restic is a backup solution.
Oh, cool. That's definitely something else to check out. I don't know if I have much more to add to this. I do like it. I'm probably going to do an expanded trial of it. I probably won't use it as the Linux, or not the Linux, but the Shack computer, only because I already have that already set up. I might set it up as a backup to do some stuff. Probably SDR, because that's what I have on that machine over there, is mainly just the SDR apps, because I kind of dork around with it over there. And I did notice that SDR Angel is in the repo, and I did install that as well. So that's nice, because that one's a hard one to compile. And it's nice when a Flatpak actually works out of the box. so you don't have to go through the headache of trying to get that to work with all the little knobs twisted the right way to come up and boot. But yeah, that's probably it's probably a short episode for a deep dive, but it is a single topic, and I think it's definitely compelling enough that I think it should stand on its own. Not a normal little Linux ham shack radio readiness test pack score or something like that. But I think if you take a look at this, it might actually surprise you of all the usability things that are kind of already in the box It is an 8.5 gig download for the development version. So be prepared. It's a big boy.
Yeah, I think I'm going to keep it running. Since I have it on a multi-boot system here in the office, I'm just going to keep it running and definitely play around with it, see what's available, see what it's like to get into the command line and do stuff that isn't necessarily already prepackaged, and see how that stuff is handled. If nothing else, just to kind of up my experience level. And but otherwise, yeah, I really like it. It looks nice. It's really functional right out of the box. Installation procedure is pretty simple, and it is chock full of tooly goodness. And of course, it has access to the third-party repos from Brew and Flatpak and the normal repos as well. So your software-centered experience is going to be pretty good just by enabling those sources. And like we've gone through and listed a bunch of stuff, and for the most part, it's all been in there. I was going to say, did you look for SDR++?
I didn't. I just typed in SDR and I saw SDR Angel, and that's the one I just installed. Does it have SDR++?
I don't know. Across the room, I would check, but I can't.
Yeah, it doesn't. It's not in there. But you should probably find what's the standard one, the from G Radio or whatever.
Oh, like GQRX or
GQRX. Yeah, let's see if GQRX. Let's see if that's in there. Oh, it actually doesn't show that. Hold on, make sure I'm in the GQRX. Nope. That's interesting. Yeah, I'll have to try to enable the third-party repos. I'm not sure if that affects the flat stuff you get from Flatpak, but it might actually impact that a little bit. So I will dig deeper into that and find out some more.
One thing I did notice, and I'm not sure this is exactly what it was, but I did my install on bare metal, and when it popped up and booted for the first time, it gave me a option that looked like it had to do with UEFI system, and it had what I think was a signing key for Aurora that you could install into the BIOS so that you could use Secure Boot with it.
Oh, nice.
So I didn't do that, but it looks like it is a thing that you can do.
Interesting. I'm just kind of going through the to see if I missed anything from the Welcome Center, because I kind of just always close that.
Yeah, this was before the Welcome Center. This was right at Grub. So,
and the Welcome Center, you can enable third-party repos. So
there you go.
Doing that right now. Okay. So yeah, if you happen to miss it, like me, you can definitely go into the third-party repos and take a look. And let's see what that actually changes here. I don't see it changing the source of the Discover Center. Let's do DNF. Let's see if that comes up with anything, huh? Let's see if DNF is even installed. Search GQRX. GQRX. Okay. Asking for my password. That's always good. Oh yeah, look. Error. Hello, Stargazers. Looks like you're trying to use DNF on Aurora. Please read our documentation here before you bork your system, right? I added the bork your system thing.
So go into Discover and see if GQRX or SDR++ pops up now. So since you've enabled third-party repos.
SDR. Yeah, still only showing one item for SDR. So there might be a slight disconnect there. But yeah, maybe as we have more time on it, we'll come back and revisit this. And I'm sure we might get some feedback and questions, and maybe people are using this and can tell us if they're using this and how they're coming along with the installs of the various applications that they want to use for the ham radio hobby.
Yep, absolutely. I'm definitely going to be playing around with it some more. I know you will be as well. So I'm sure we'll revisit this at some point, especially when we have either something more positive or more negative to say about it. As time goes.
I bricked my immutable system.
All right. Well, that brings us down to the end of our deep dive topic for tonight, Aurora Linux. And if you've got some time and some bare metal or virtual machine environment to go kick the tires on this, I definitely think it's worth a look. It's quite nice. And that's saying something, since I don't really deal with immutable systems or flat packs or all that kind of thing. We make no secret that we've been down on that kind of thing in the past. So
Yeah. This would be a great box just for like if you do software development, the install has like all the tools already there. It's already set up for Podman and everything else. So yeah, for at least a developer type, I think this would be definitely a go-to starter pack for that type of environment.
So does it have like Python and Ruby and Rust and what was the other one I was just thinking of? Python, Ruby, Rust. Oh, Mono. Are all of those like already pre-installed?
Python is definitely installed. IRB, but no. So Ruby's not installed. And
Rust?
Probably Mono. Rust
Go.
is not there. Rust up is not there because I just
Go.
did a Rust up. Go. So, but I think those would be installed easily with the Brew. I mean, Brew is basically how you want to get that going.
Okay, so it doesn't have everything, but whatever.
Yeah. But with Brew, you can get it going quicker because, I mean, that's sort of like a recommended install path for almost all language packs and stuff like that nowadays anyway, using some type of software management tool specific for that. And Brew is definitely that.
All right, very good. Well, that brings us down to our announcements and feedback, and we don't have anything for this episode, at least not from listeners. But we do want to mention that we do have a Patreon and PayPal subscription if you want to help support the show financially. We also have merchandise if you want to help us out that way. And don't forget that Hamvention is really not very far away now, like 6 weeks. So, and we'll see you at our new digs. We'll be right next to the K2BSA, so we can mention that all day long for 3 days.
Every time. It'll be in every podcast from here till Hamvention.
So booths 2205 and 2206 in Building 2, and we look forward to seeing you all there. And then for our new subscriber supporters and live participants, we had a few. We have a new free Patreon, Branko Vukmirovic. We have some new folks on Discord, QRP Husky, KM4OUX, KI6NPG, Doomsayer, W1CRB, and Larry KE9CXM. Doomsayer and W1CRB are not the same person, by the way, just in case that wasn't clear. On Blue Sky, we have Nick Derhund. It's a couple of new folks on the mailing list, Prasad Agrahar and JAR3DS, or Jared S, maybe. And tonight, joining us in the live chat, we had Tony K4XSS and maybe Jill K1TTZ. She didn't log in, but she might be listening. Who knows? And Mike K6GTE. So thanks to everybody for downloading the show and listening or subscribing and helping to support the show, and hope to see you all at Hamvention. And thanks to everybody who joined the live chat tonight. We really appreciate that. And in a week, we'll have our Short Topics episode, so please tune in then. And in the meantime, we hope you have a great week, and we'll let you get back to whatever it was you were doing. And we'll sign off for this episode, number 576 of Linux in the Ham Shack. For the On Assignment Cheryl, W5MOO. I'm Russ, K5TUX.
And I'm Bill, NE4RD73.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Linux in the Ham Shack. LHS is a community-sponsored podcast. Live recordings are Sunday nights at 8 o'clock Central Time. Our homepage can be found at lhspodcast.info. You can support the podcast via Patreon at patreon.com/LHS podcast. We're also on Discord, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube and Mastodon. Contact us via email at info@lhspodcast.info or via voicemail at 190954776469. That's 1909 LHS show. We also have merch. So until next we meet, remember to always heed your hedonism.